and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
Happy Monday, everyone. It is a wonderful day today. This past weekend, I participated in the Arizona Give Camp, and we had lots of giving back to nonprofits. We had 6 teams helping out several nonprofits, Community Cause, Patches Animal Rescue. We had Arizona's Foster. We had Arcasante. We had Furnishing Dignity. We had Impact One Breast Cancer Foundation. All of our teams managed to actually get something done and something actually deployed that will help all of the nonprofits. So that was amazing to watch all of our volunteer developers work through the whole weekend, get MVPs done on a Saturday. So they started on Friday, got an MVP, most of them, got MVPs done by middle of the day on Saturday, and then they got to work on polishing and adding in additional functionality through the day, Saturday. And then we did about 2:30 in the afternoon. We did a wrap up and showed off everything to all the other volunteers, showed off to the other nonprofits. It was an amazing experience, and Quicken Loans was awesome and hosted us, provided all the food, all around one of the best gift camps that I have been part of, both as an organizer and as a developer person. Fantastic. I can't actually wait till next year, so we're already in talks to do one again next year and possibly even do a couple small one-day ones throughout the year. So that was fantastic to get that done this past weekend. And then today, we're going to talk all about Cypress testing again, finalize off some of our testing. Up to this point, we've got a good majority of tests up and running, but most of them are not using the data-cy attributes. We're actually doing selector queries, which can be a tad bit brittle. If you change the name of classes, change it from divs to spans or spans to divs, some of our tests might actually break because we're not specifically looking for that attribute. We're looking for the selector, so we're picking out where all of the rows of to-do items are, and then picking out the first one in the row, and then looking at different things on there. We're looking at .btn for some of our buttons. Well, what if we had a second button on there? Now we have multiple btns. Which one's the right one? So we're going to add some data-cy attributes to make it easier for our selectors to actually work, make our test a little bit less brittle. Well, in here, and then if we have time, we'll also add in some tests for our sorting. Right now, we're not testing if we add in 2 items and we go ahead and complete one of them. Does it actually really drop to the bottom of the list? Does the strike through class truly get added on onto the whole row? Does it gray itself out? So we'll look at testing those pieces of it. And along the way, if you have any questions at all about Cypress or Angular or anything else, throw it up in the chat and we'll answer it. If you want to find out when I'm going to be streaming and be notified, make sure to click that follow button on the channel. Right now I'm streaming every Monday and every Friday. The goal is to stream at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we'll talk about Cypress and Angular. We'll do some Angular unit testing on this Friday. We'll look at, just as Angular comes out with 8, what do we need to do to upgrade to Angular 8? We'll do all kinds of stuff related to Angular. We'll also occasionally throw in some ASP.NET, since that's what I normally do most of my backend development in these days. So we'll look at the right way to structure that. We'll look at some testing in those pieces. So a little bit of full stack on here, and then we'll look at anything else that happens to be of interest to me, things that I find, things that you as followers and viewers ask me to work on, or questions that come up. We'll look at doing chats on some of those. So let's get to it and look at what are we actually going to be doing. So as we saw in previous streams, we have this to-do application. I use this as part of my Angular workshops. When people come to my workshop, they actually build this application. We start from scratch. That's with installing the Angular CLI. And then we work towards getting a login page, a sign-up page, being able to add to-do items in here, really focusing on the Angular pieces and not having to worry so much about the actual coding piece or the actual business logic. We want to worry about the coding pieces, obviously. So let's get logged in here. And once you're logged in, we have our to-do list. Right now, we've only got one item in the list. Let's add a second one in here. And it always goes alphabetically. So if I add an ABC, we should see it goes right to the top. As I check items off, they go to the bottom. They stay in alphabetical order, both directions, so completed and not completed items are both alphabetically sorted. And so we don't have any test right now for these items. I'm in here checking them off. So we'll look at later on getting that, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to refactor all of our tests to put data-cy attributes. So let's look at what we're actually talking about, because we did this a little bit for our to-do component in order to find the actual icons. So one of the things we had trouble with initially was these icons, trying to get a handle actually on them from our selector. It was a little difficult. They're font awesome SVG components, and trying to dig into the attributes, I couldn't exactly consistently get the right attribute that I wanted, and our selector was getting really long. So instead, we put on this data-cy attribute, and so this makes it for our test case. So if we pull up our to-do test, and we look at the icon here, so we can see we did this for the trash can icon as well. Now instead of having this giant selector to try to drill down into the SVG component, we just say bracket data-cy equals and give it the name of that attribute. So now we can actually play around with clicking on things. And here we get what we do here is we actually get a reference to that icon, and we drill down a little bit into the icon and we click on it. And it'd be nice just to have, in some of the other cases, just to be able to get exactly to our items. Like row dash to do, let's refactor that one first, because we're using that a whole slew. Instead of depending on classes, let's actually put a data-cy attribute on those. So here we go data-cy and call it to-do items. So now every place we're doing .row.todo, we can say data-cy equals to-do items. And so no matter what we change our classes to, this is going to stay the same. So do a little find and replace here. Put our brackets around there. Yeah, we'll just keep walking through all these. Make sure we don't over replace here. Let's go ahead and save these two here. So right now we have our server running, but what we don't have is our Cypress stuff running. So let's go ahead and kick off our npx Cypress open. Give it a sec to start this up and we'll see all of our test cases. We'll kick them off, and if everything's working right, they should all succeed. Well, let's get some music started too. Last week we listened to the Pretzel Upbeat. I think I'm going to switch this over to the Rock Station. There you go. Cypress launched up. Let's run all of the specs here. Give it just a moment. This is the worst part about test, even though it's only about 20 seconds, just waiting for them all to run. And awesome, our data-cy attribute to get the row worked. And let's keep doing this refactor and look for places where we're looking for classes and we can put in our attribute. So we can look at it on our form. So this is our login form here. We've got email, password, we've got our buttons. Let's pull up our login form. And I also turned on the Twitch highlighter. So if you find things in the code that you want to highlight, go ahead and do the pound line and give us a line number. So log in. Here we go. So we've got our email form here. Let's throw in our data-cy and for email. We'll do the same thing down here for password. Let's look at our buttons. Right now we're dependent on the classes. We don't want to do that, so call it login btn. I'm realizing too we haven't done anything with our cancel button, so at some point we will have to actually see what the cancel button does and write a test case for it. So what equals create account. And we'll call it login error msg. So now let's go refactor this test. And now we can look at data-cy equals email. Data-cy equals password. primary here, data.cy equals login btn. There's those ones. Let's look at our account one as well, so we update them all in the right spot. Bracket data-cy equals email. Data-cy equals password. That should be our sign up button. You know what? These ones we haven't refactored yet, because this is our sign up page. Only refactored our login page. So, login test here, and we will refactor our sign in page in a bit. CY equals password, and now our login button. Login btn. So test our. So we're on the sign up page, and now we are on the login page. Data-cy equals email, and data-cy equals password. Data-cy equals login btn. And that should do it. Watch it run back through our test cases here. And again, we're just doing the data.cy attribute just so that our test cases are a little less brittle. They're not dependent on CSS classes that can easily change. And it looks like we broke our tester, and that looks like a typing mistake. It looks like data.cy bracket versus data.cy equals. That'd be right here. Rerun these tests. This is looking better so far. Perfect, so we got our login form done. Let's do the same thing actually with our sign up form here and change or add our data.cy attributes in here. Data.cy equals email. And this form is very similar to our login form. So add a password. Data.cy equals login btn. Actually, this is sign up btn. Data.cy equals cancel btn. cy equals login link. We're going to actually rename on our login here. I'm going to call it link. It really is a link and not a button. Data.cy equals we'll call it sign up message. And we will come back and see what we can do for this message, because this is actually a sign up and not a login. Let's look at our form here and see where we are at. Well, the other thing we haven't tested at all either is all of our validation on our login and sign up forms. So we will come back and do that piece. as well. Scroll through our sign up page, login. So this page, we're going from the login to the create account. So data-cy equals sign up link. And we are on the sign up page. So let's go create. Actually, I think I have these backwards. So sign up link. Nope, I got them right. So we're on the sign up page, and this would be the login link. Let's validate that we called on that right. So login link and create account link. Okay, so we're on the login page. We're going to click on the sign up link and go to the sign up page. And this is create login link. So from the sign up page, this is create account link. There we go. Wow, it's early. Couldn't get that straight in my head. Okay, so login link. Let's go ahead and save that, and we'll just run through those two, make sure those two actually work. Perfect, we can see those passing right here. There's the second and the third test. So we'll just keep going down this route. So we're on the sign up page. Data-cy equals email. The same thing for password. Data-cy equals sign up btn. We'll refactor that piece at some point. And that's our logout button. So we'll put the same data-cy attribute on those. Make sure we can create an account. And I forgot a double quote here, right here. So that we don't have to watch all of these run again, we'll just do that only. Make sure this one at least runs. And obviously I didn't call it sign up button. Go and rerun our test here. Because our selectors are case sensitive. Hey, homie, how you doing? Welcome on in. And what are you up to today? Hey, we're up to writing some Cypress tests here. This is the app that I use for my workshop for Angular, and didn't have any UI tests. So I'm going through and writing some UI tests in here. And right now we're actually refactoring all of these tests to be a little less brittle. Initially I did Jquery selectors for everything, which depended on classes and element names, and now we're actually adding a data-cy attribute onto them. I'm chilling in Denver this week. Fantastic. Dave Rail is up in Denver, by the way. I just saw him this week, and he came on down for the Arizona Give Camp. He hung out with us and coded up on one of the teams called Furnishing Dignity. They did their thing is they get donations, and they did a whole bunch of stuff with Firebase and being able to go into different rooms and check through what's in the different rooms, and as kind of an inventory sheet. So that was kind of cool to see him and see their team working on Firebase. And yeah, he was pretty good actually. And I saw your birthday is Wednesday. Happy early birthday. I know it's somewhere in your mid-30s, somewhere in the 30 range, which I totally didn't realize you were actually that old. So what, you coding on anything good today, or are you just hanging out in Denver? Because you don't look like you're 35. That's why nobody thinks you're 35. 33. There we go. I knew you were in your 30s somewhere. Trying to make you older than you are. But no one thinks you're in your 30s. You have fun with life. You don't look like you're that old. That's why. let's get back to some testing here. I look way older with the gray beard too. At least yours wasn't gray, but mine is obviously gray. So I look way older than 40, let's see, 2 I think. So that's how much I care about the age, huh? Okay, so we got our data CY for our sign up form here. Now let's go through and do the to-do form and add in the rest of our data-CY elements into here. So we got our input, the CY equals, call it to-do input, update our button, call it add VTN, and time to go refactor our test. Looking for all of these items in here. Yes, instead of looking for form control, CY equals, we call it add to do input. I can totally tell that Give Camp was this weekend and I am thoroughly sleep deprived. And even though we had a quiet room, we had the most awesome set of lights in the quiet room that would randomly turn on full blast in this conference room throughout the night. So that was an awesome experience. Nothing like being woken out of a sound sleep because it's super, super bright. Let's see here, what else we got. Good, data-CY equals add button. Data-CY equals add button. Good to do input. Kind of nice that VS Code highlights it so it's in the screen. At least I saw there was one more. Equals add VTN. Okay, I'm tired of doing that by hand. There we go. Dash data-CY equals add VTN. Next. And this one, add data-CY equals. And yes, I will be at Summit. I fly in Sunday and about 10:30-ish so that I can enjoy all of the festivities that are going on Sunday, and then I fly out in the middle of the afternoon on Friday. You gonna be up there? Awesome, that is good to hear. I know at one point in time you were not going to be able to make it. That is great to see that you will be up there. What day are you coming in? Sweet. I will see you Sunday as well. I hear that on the conferences. I know a few people that are up in Confu this week and are flying in straight from Confu to the summit. And where's your conference at that you're heading to, or what conference is it? Very cool. I've not heard of Momentum. Let's look that up. The Cincinnati Developer Conference helping developers be better, faster, and stronger. That is awesome. That will be Sounds like a really good conference. Throw that into my pocket so I can keep track of that for next year. Let's look at our speaker list here. Sounds like a whole slew of people I know are speaking there. Oop. Looks like fellow streamer Brandon is there. He is on the Dev Chatter at our stream or Twitch handle. And go figure, he's talking about why coding live stream, what are coding live streams and why you should care. And 2 talks, it looks like. Power of CSS and React on the desktop. Very, very nice. He's got Cassandra talking about getting out of your lane, getting out of your comfort zone. And it's good to see my friend Calvin as well while talking at some conferences. That was one of his goals, and it's awesome to see that he has accomplished one of those. Those many goals that I know he has. This is a great lineup. Some guy talking about WebAssembly and AI engineering. He was actually just down in Arizona about a week or so ago, and we streamed his talk about Bigfoot and machine learning and teaching the model. Got Jamie Wright doing some stuff. This is a fantastic event. All my friend Taylor is here. You know, what's all the fuss about serverless and writing end-to-end tests using Chrome and Puppeteer? Very, very nice. And that is a loaded conference with lots of great talks. Wow. I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye out for that one next year. All right, let's save our stuff here. And we have possibly a .only in the code. Yes, we do. Let's take off our .only so all of our tests run again. And if you haven't already, make sure you click the follow button that's at the top of the channel so you can be notified whenever I go live. The goal right now is every Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So all of our refactor is done for the to-do, adding in those pieces. Let's see what other items we need to add our data-cy in. So we added to our inputs, added to our button. We have not added it to our validation error messages yet. Data-cy. Something is pegging my CPU here. If you can write a selector in jQuery, you can write a Cypress test. It is as simple as that. All of their ways to find and the items on the page are all jQuery Selector based, and I'll run through a test here in one moment as soon as I type out this data-cy attribute. And we'll call it form error, form validation, and they are case sensitive. Thank you, sir, for the follow. And saving error. There we go. So let's look back through just a basic test. These tests that are in this file are all about the menu. So when we go look at this menu, it's just clicking on the different items, making sure that they actually go to the right route. And actually, I'm not even clicking on them in the menu because there are some login things. I'm just making sure the text is correct, that the link that is set up for it is set to the right spot. In Angular, we also have this thing called router link, so that it goes through the right routes. Making sure that all of those are on each of these items. And the first thing you do with every single Cypress test is you have to tell it where to visit. This is your starting page. So once you have Cypress installed, which is as simple as npm install Cypress, and the first time you run Cypress with an npx Cypress open, it'll go through and it actually puts in all the Cypress stuff you need, creates this Cypress directory that's over here in the Explorer, creates you a fixtures and integration folder, your plugins folder, your support folder. And the only thing you really have to do initially is add in your test into the integration folder. And it actually puts out, there's like 100 and some tests that it throws in there as examples. Those that are actually really good tests that you can go through. I've removed them since out of this project. And all the tests are based off of, I mentioned the Jquery Selector to find elements, but it sits on top of Karma. So if you're used to that Karma pattern of describes and it's exactly how you set your test up. They have before, it says run this before you run the first or any of the test. And everything is cy dot. So everything Cypress related. Visit takes you to a page. Then I have some nested describes in here. Because I had 3 tests for every menu item, I nested them together just to make it easier to figure out what's what versus having one describe with 15 tests in it, or 12 tests, I think, because we only have 4 menu items. Then it's just cy.get. I give it my selector. I tell it .should, and I expect it to have some text. And have text says this is the exact text I expect. So I expect it to say login for the item. And I can chain a whole slew of stuff to get together. So like this one, change a couple things. I say for the go find me that item, it should have an attribute of href, and it should include /login. The include, and we actually may try changing the include back to have text. Include is a contains, so just expect it to say /login. It could have anything else to go with it. And then we did the same thing for the router link. So the tests are pretty simple to write overall. And then for something like our form, where we want to type in something, if we come up here, and this is actually us logging in. So we tell it visit the home page, which automatically actually redirects us over to the login page. Go get my item and type in this stuff into the email account box. Type this in the password. Go find my button. Make sure it has the right text. Click the button. Check my location. I should have gotten redirected back to the home page. And then they have a really cool thing where I can actually mock out my REST calls. So cy-server starts up that process. And then I set this route up here. So when I go to /to-do, I'm going to return back a status 200 for my post call. And my response is going to be this text here. So this is what I would expect the actual API to give me back. So this way I didn't have to keep adding data into the API over and over. Because one of the things that I discovered as I was starting to test is every time I actually added something into the data store, now I had one more row showing up in this UI. And my test right now only expects there to be one row. Because I'm testing, is the button right? If I click on it, does it actually toggle here? If I click on the delete, can I actually delete it? So I didn't want 2 items in here yet, and I didn't want to take on that complexity. So I'm just mocking out of all of these stuff here. And this .as just gives it as an alias. So now I can do all of my actions here. So go ahead and type something in the form, click on the form, and then I can tell it here, wait for that REST call to be done. And so as I'm mocking it out, it comes back fairly quickly with my response. And if I actually refreshed my page, I would have no data actually in the data store, but it comes back for the UI to do things. My whole goal with Cypress is to test UI behaviors. You should have true test for your whole API, testing what is the API actually returning based off the various inputs that go into it. And by having those tests, I don't have to worry about testing that as much in the UI. because those tests should signify what do I expect my UI to actually, or what do I expect my API to actually return to the UI. Okay? And when those break, I'm going to know, oh, I'm going to also break my UI. I need to refactor both of those. And so really I just want to get all this interaction. If I click on this and only type in one character, I get this item coming out. If I put out nothing, it puts in there. If I do more than three or more items, it goes away. My button becomes active. All of that stuff is what I want to test with Cypress and all the different interactions. And like at work, we actually have a UI that has a filter list that's in here so they can filter different things. I want to test each of those filters because they're all client side, so I already had the data. If I didn't, I could have mocked it out just to go. If I click this button for a filter, does now my list down here update with the right number of items? If I pick one item off of it, is it what I expect it to be? My grid's got sorting in a lot of UIs. If I click on the sort, does the last row now become the first row, and the first row is now the last row? All of that kind of interaction is what I'm using Cypress for, and it's all using those same. It gets the sorting one's a little bit more complicated. I don't have an example handy for that, but it's still go and get my item, then go and do something, and do a check. So it's not a whole lot of code. It's just organizing it in the right way. So pretty darn easy to write test. For all the tests that we are looking at, it took, even doing it on stream, we spent about 2.5, 3 hours writing the test cases, and that's on stream. You know, lots of talking through those pieces. If I did it off stream, probably an hour to get all of those tests in there. So I've been pretty shocked at how easy it is. The one piece I would steer clear of, I know you're doing a bunch of React stuff, so probably not in the TypeScript space. I'm doing a bunch of Angular stuff, so I'm in the TypeScript space. I initially tried Cypress with TypeScript. They supposedly support it, but I kept running into some TypeScript funkiness. Like this whole CY on window confirm, so I could stub out my confirm that comes up for clicking on the delete. That didn't work with TypeScript actually set up. They were missing some definitions that TypeScript was complaining about. They have a PR that's been merged, but it's still in the development branch. It hasn't been released to fix that. But that was just one of like 3 or 4 different random things that I ran into. And so I went back to just using pure JavaScript for all the Cypress stuff, because they 100% support all of that stuff with the JavaScript side. And all of my funkiness and workarounds that I had in there, I got to get rid of. And to pull it back out was as easy as getting rid of the processor that took TypeScript and converted it back to JavaScript, and renaming all of my files to from .ts to .js, and removing all of the types. It took maybe 10 minutes, and we did it right on stream, so I couldn't get the Windows confirm working in the last stream without it. And this is stubbing out our Windows confirm, so that it never truly pops up, but when I call it, the first time runs through and puts a false in there. Second time I'm going to go through and do a true. And then I click on the item, I check to make sure it still exists, because I should have said false. I don't want to delete it or cancel. So go ahead and set up our route for the delete. And the reason we're not truly deleting here as well is all of our other tests run and depend on that data. And so I'm not inserting data for each one. I'm not refreshing the page for each one. They run in a specific order. Unlike most like unit tests, you don't depend on the order. In Cypress, it runs it top to bottom essentially, and it builds up your state of your app. So you don't want to keep refreshing and rebuilding up your state. That just is a lot of resources. If I went and had it do the login page every single time and then go and add in a to-do item, I've now added, even in our simple set of tests, it took about another 30 to 45 seconds to do that, and we've experimented with that a couple times on stream. And then the next time we click on it, so we clicked on it here, waited for our API to run. Now the item actually gets deleted, because the second time through it ran a true, so we said, okay, go ahead and delete it. And this piece actually goes ahead and tests out your text that shows up in the alert. So if I change this, our alert actually will fail. So that's a nice way to also make sure that the alert text hasn't changed to something odd, or you don't get odd characters in it. So pretty darn easy here. So let's see where we're at with our test. So everything is passing at this point for the to-do page, but I know we actually added in this form validation errors. Let's go and update our test for this. I just happen to know that all the tests are at the bottom of the page here. So data-cy equals form validation error. And I know there's at least one more here. Two more. There we go. And I know we don't have a test for. Leave a few of these down here. So Saltburn, did that answer your question of how easy it is to do the Cypress testing? And one reason too that I started with the Cypress route is I have a QA department at work, and our QA guys are not developers. So they kept looking for tools to do recording and replaying, and every tool that they kept finding, I'd go look at the test cases. They'd come back, this would be like div like 100. I'm like, that is just a horrible test if you're doing it by position, because the minute I add a div above it, now it's no longer div 100, so you have to go re-record your test. That's what a lot of the record replay tools actually do. A lot of them try to figure out how to best find it. Some do it by position, some try to pick some random attribute, but they do the best they can, but they're recording and replaying. They don't know anything about the tool. They literally just click record, they go through, click on a bunch of stuff in the UI, and it's trying to capture it. But the tests that it spits out are super brittle. It breaks all the time. So they were always rewriting their test and going back through it. And as long as we didn't modify that page, it was great for them. But we're in the middle of a huge development cycle for both of our main applications. So they were constantly breaking. It's like, unit test is totally invalid if you have to re-record it every single time. The goal of a test is that I don't record it and change it every single time. That when it breaks, it means that my UI truly changed and I need to do some update for it. Or I made a mistake and my UI truly is broken, not I re-record it and go, yep, it looks good. So those were the tools I kept running into, and then I ran into Cypress. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so easy to write test cases in. I spent about 3 hours at work, even when I was just researching it, and got all of our filters that I talked about a bit ago working. We have a search box that I can type in stuff. It searches. It's got a button in the box to clear it. It's got our filter changes text, and if I click on it, it's got new text. It has a button to clear out the search box. I was able to do all of that testing. I wrote about 35 tests in just a few hours. Those same tests, just to run through manually, took us about 10 to 15 minutes because you had to pull the data. There was like 7 different scenarios for each of the things that you had to run through. And I got to automate that, and I was learning Cypress at the time. And so if you know Jquery Selectors, it goes really, really, really quick. And it starts to make you aware of some things that don't work quite as well as you think they should, because they become really hard to test. Or some things that you're not even testing. Like I thought I was actually done writing most of our Cypress test, and I realized we're not actually doing the saving error test. So nowhere do we actually validate that if an error comes back from our API, that it shows up. So we'll have to figure out how to test that here in a bit. But first, let's get our form validation error test actually running. One thing that will definitely trip you up potentially is there's no UI here to select just run one test. So you put a dot only on the end of either the describe or the test. I found if I do multiple dot onlys on an it doesn't run both of the tests. It seems to only run the first one. And you have to make sure you don't check the dot only in, Also, next person that pulls it out is only going to get the one test case, and your CI is only going to run the one test case or one set of test cases. So that was the only like major hiccup that I've run into, because a couple times I have checked in and it went, hey, I just want to run this one test because I don't. Listen, I say dot only, and then I check it in and go, whoops, because this is all you would see as a user the next time. You also may be noticing that it spits out a slew of stuff here. This is all the things that ran through, and as you roll over them, you can see where it's at. So you see, we visited the login page. It went and found the email. Also, that's what it's highlighting for .type. You'll see the red button right in the middle of email. That's the control it found, and the control we're typing in. And so you can trace through exactly what it's doing, what it's finding on here. You can see it was waiting for some stuff. So it's nice to be able to go through and see exactly what's being typed out here. The other piece it has is this little bullseye targety looking thing is the Selector Playground. So when I click on it and then I roll over items, it actually will give me what is that Jquery Selector. So great way to initially try to figure out where is this item without adding data-cy attributes all over your code. And if there's multiple items in here, it will do things in there. You can also put in your own selectors in here. So we didn't have any items, obviously. That's why that one didn't work. But you can see where it's going to actually select. I've had times with like the Angular material design menu. We have a drop down and it actually puts a whole invisible div over the whole top of the UI. And so I was at one point getting errors going, we can't get to your menu item because something's on top of it, because the previous test actually had been testing out the drop downs. And so this Selector Playground allowed me to see, when I select that, what the heck is actually going on. And in here, some kind of a nice way to do that. And then they have a button here called Copy to Clipboard. And if I go and copy this back in, it gives me the cy-get already, so I don't have to put that in there. Or I can tell it, I know one of these is, there's the drop down, I can tell it contains. I know there's a find as well. So contains will just look for text. So we'll say it contains welcome here, and again I get the CY. So kind of a nice little tool in there. As well, I'll show you one other thing here in a moment that you can do. Let's get rid of our dot only. We're actually going to stop our test cases. So let's kill that UI. This is the actual Cypress UI. So it shows you all the test cases that it found. If I click on any one of them individually, it'll launch just that one test case and run through it. Or I can click the run all. I can run them both in Chrome or Electron. And if I close this down, if I run npx cypress run, now we're going to run these same things from command line here. And so this is what you would use for like your continuous integration environment. So we'll let this thing spin up a bit. Kind of nice, it includes both a UI and a command line run. And when it runs it from the command line, it runs it in Electron. So you don't have to install Chrome and everything else on your machine. Because I just straight off ran it, you'll see all of these videos that it's going to create. It creates a video directory under that Cypress directory we looked at earlier, and it shows what it exactly ran through. So if there was errors, you could see exactly what was going on with it as well. The intent for the videos is they have a dashboard service. First, at this paid product, you can upload those to the dashboard service, and it'll see what it actually did for runs. You can watch the video. It's a way to get it off of your CI server. Or you say videos equals false when your command line parameters, and it won't create the videos. I have not tried the paid product, but Cypress, for everything that we're showing, is 100% free and it's open source. There is one major downside of Cypress right now. It only works in Chrome. So if you need to test out Firefox, Safari, IE11, anything besides Chrome, you are SOL right now. They have been working for a while on getting cross-browser support, but they don't have a timeline for that, and they have been working for quite a while on it. So who knows when it's going to truly come out. And it does take a little bit more time to run from the command line, since right now it's creating videos, so it's got to take time to process that. And I am streaming, so I can hear my CPU and my fan just cranking away next to me. Well, that's running. Let's pop open our here and let's do a little refresh, see if I can get the video. There we go. We'll pull out of an Explorer here. Let's wait for this to finish though, since it's pegging my machine a little bit. I'm going to quickly look and see what is pegging my... You gotta love that my backup software decided to kick off, even though it's only supposed to kick off when it detects no activity on the machine. There we go, much better. So it ran through all these, created videos for us. Give me a sec, pop that back over. Apologize for that. Hold on. There we go. Got all those windows right. And so now we actually have videos from each one of these. We'll open one of these up and get our video player over here since it's popped up on the other screen. So we can see exactly what it did, ran through all the different tests, and so a nice way to see what it actually went through and did, and they're pretty small. That was only a mega of total videos. So let's start back up our Cypress UI here. Wait for that to run, and let's get back to updating this form validation error and seeing if we have a dot alert anywhere in our, besides our HTML. So, looks like on our login page. So let's take a look at our login page here. And we actually called it data-cy equals login error message. So one down. There we go. That was the only remaining spot. And let's kick off all of our tests again. Everything should still be passing since we haven't changed the actual text. We're just putting in the data-cy attribute. there you go. All of our tests are still running here. So let's take a look through our HTML here for our login page. Make sure that we've put in our data.cy for everything. So we did email. We did our password. We haven't done anything with these yet, but we also haven't written test cases. So those are going to be coming up. So we did login button. Let's make sure we don't have a .btn anywhere. Perfect, we do not. So we got a login button, got our cancel button, count links. So that one is good. Let's look at our sign up page. Got our data-cy for email, for password. See you later, Saltburn. Have a good one. Enjoy your lunch. See, and we got it for all of our buttons, our invalid messages. Got it for our input, our button, form validation, saving error that we're not testing anything with yet, but we have it ready. Got it for our to-do item text. And we have it for our trash can. Also, one thing we're not testing is our data pipe. That piece feels like our data pipe, which is this piece right here where it puts the date at the end of it. That feels like that should be a unit test and not a UI test. But since we're going to just pass in the date, which is really just a date stamp which gives us a list of numbers, and it converts it to the appropriate date. So that we should be testing through unit test, and we will look at that on Friday when we talk about Angular unit test. So let's pull up Get Cracking here and actually make a commit for all of these. Take just a moment to get Kraken pulled up here. And it looks like our get ignore is not ignoring the videos. It should be. Do we have a Cypress in here? We do not. Screenshots and videos. Add exclude for Cypress screenshots, shots, and videos. I'm going to stage these 5 files and say add data dash to my attribute. There we go. So now that we've got all of that refactoring piece done, and actually I'm gonna look through our test real quick just to make sure we don't have anything hanging out. So we did data-cy for our 404 page. Login pages. Let's just do a .get. So that'll be where it'll actually be. Data-cy should be on all of these now. We have not done our menu items. So let's take a look at the menu items. Right now, the way our menu is set up is we're unintentionally checking the order of the menu items because we are looking at nth child out of these. And I'm not quite sure why we're looking at nth child twice. Let's actually put this in our selector here. Let's see what comes up. Oops. Back to our, where did it go? That was awesome of it. Moved to the other screen on me. Let's see if I get rid of this. So it needs both of them because looks like nth child 2 is picking up the whole centerpiece. Like, this isn't a great thing to pick up. We should be able to pick up just the menu by itself and then start looking at it. To me, it's okay to actually, because it's a menu, I could see using the nth child within here so that you make sure that your menu's in the right order. Because that is a UI. I think if you're expecting your menu to be here and somebody accidentally moves it and you weren't aware of that, you would want your test to break. But I shouldn't be having to pick nth child 2 to get the whole screen. So let's go look at that bit of code. And I know our menu is in our app component. It's actually in our app header, which is in shared header. And actually, I wonder if we could select a little further down. Let's see what header does for us. So header gets us into that section. Does it get us? Actually, look at minimizing this and look at some stuff. And let's see what it does. So we've got our menu includes our brand and includes a button for toggle menu. So this would be resetting the viewport and making sure that the hamburger menu comes up. So I think we could update that test to just look at the header. So in this case, if you follow semantic HTML like you should only have one header on the page. And so it's narrow enough that we should be able to use that. And because it's the menu and we want to check things in the right order, the other piece we'll throw in it, and actually we'll change it to header. But I still want to look at throwing in data-cy here so that we say menu items. This way we look at the nth child, we're truly looking at the menu and we're not including in this button and this image. Because yes, we want them on the left side, but really our order is about menus. So let's go make that menu change for our testing. So we're going to change these to, in this case we're only doing nth child 3. Let's see what that pulls up actually. How does that manage? Because we're on the unknown page. Let's actually click on that and go to unknown. Because we don't have a ton of stuff on the page, it's able to get that. But if we go header, we go .navlink. Now we have just our navlink items. But you notice it also picked our welcome and our logout. I don't know that I wouldn't consider those part of the menu because they're separate. I would consider that maybe the right menu and making sure they're in the right order. But let's first update this to say header. And I also put in, actually we could just say data-cy equals menu items. Let's save all of these here. And let's put a dot only on this one. See if that actually finds our item. Expected ref, and I got 5 more. So let's see what data-cy, actually it's data-cy equals menu items. Okay. The welcome is part of the menu. We're going to see if that's true. truly what we want. Now, I would have assumed that this was a right. Actually, somehow it is being pushed over to the right. Just gotta find the right piece here. Navbar nav, Mr. Auto. I am not totally sure how it pushed to the right. Maybe that's the default when there's multiple navs. It pushes the second one all the way to the right. But let's actually do, here we go. We go left menu. We'll say data.cy equals right menu. Actually, let's update our test case here. Menu items and data.cy equals right menu. We technically can get rid of this. Oh, dude. And we still need our nth child 3. So I was looking for the item and never found it. Nth child 1, so we want left menu. And we want 3. Did I say right menu? I did. Silly me. There we go. So this will look at the left menu. It'll make sure our third item is the actual, or gets the third child, which will be our third item. And then it checks the nav link to make sure it says is login. Let's update all of these other ones. So we're just getting a little bit more specific here. Make sure all 3 of these still pass. The nice part about this one is it will check menu order. I could pop out that same item into its own test. I could do describe only menu. Let's do order of items. We'll copy this test up here. Left menu. Expect the third item to be here. And we'll say login order. Scroll down, we'll also get the unknown. Have item 2. Nav item 1. Unknown sign up. There we go. Let's put these in the right order just so it satisfies my order OCD here. And give it a little nice spacing. Okay, so now we can add in this piece. This way we're ensured that we're only testing the menu. And actually, let's call this right menu order of items, because we can also do the same thing for the left menu here in a moment. We'll get rid of this first test in every one of these. Let's see if it's nice enough to run both of those, but I'm pretty sure it is not. So this is one bug that I have found, that it doesn't like to run multiple dot onlys. Make sure we don't have another one in here somewhere. Let's put our dot only at the very top here, because I only want to run the menu navigation. Okay, so it did not find our left menu. See if it broke for all of them. So it broke for a couple of them. Interesting that it worked for some and didn't work for others. So let's see what the difference is here. Ah, here's a big difference. We got rid of the items here. There we go. Now it's working. It's testing our order here. Let's also look at our left menu. Left. We'll say welcome, because that's our first one. Call this right menu. We'll say welcome. We'll say log out. Log out. There's only 2 menu items in here. The other test that we can actually run is, we will say it number of items, we'll say right menu. If I finish this off, there we go, single quote. So now I can say get cy dash get, and we're going to find our data dash cy attribute. Data dash cy, say equals left menu. And we will look for .nav dash link. Dot should have dot. Let's see. So we'll have to look at how do we count how many are here. Take a look and see if we actually have an example in one of these. Not, we will have to look it up here in a moment. Luckily, Cypress has great docs. Test number of elements. Not quite what we were looking for. But let's see what Stack Overflow found. Have dot length. So we expect 4 items. We're going to put the left menu item one up here too. We expect it to have 2. So let's see where our test is actually at here. Oh, it's thinking. Looks like we may have broke some stuff. Excuse me there. Oh, looks like our number of items broke. Never found our piece. So let's do data-cy equals left menu. Make sure it found it. Dot nav-link. Both of those top 2 tests should pass this time. So right menu. Let's look at what our selector is for that. Or yeah, right menu. Except this is. I swear I can tell my left from my right. Promise. Right menu and child 1. Because it found something, but which one did it find? So that should have been the log out. One. Interesting. This is why. It's right here. It's finding our invisible item, but it's not finding our welcome screen. Inf child 1, get our nav link. Problem is it technically returns more than 1 back for that, because we have 2 nav links. That and let that rerun. Okay, it doesn't like finding these menu items. Make sure we set up our data-cy correctly. So left menu. Right menu. Got nav link on welcome. It also has a. It looks like we have nav link only on the actual item. Oh, which is the same as here. This technically isn't a link, it doesn't go anywhere. Let's see what the UI looks like without that. That would be why it's there, to get all of the alignment correct. that back in there. But that was strictly for an alignment thing. I remember trying to figure it out at one point in time to get aligned, and not being a UI developer, that was not worth the time I was spending to get that aligned. So it's not finding either of the items. But we can make that test pass, because it is supposed to be log out. Alright, one test fixed, one test still to go. You can see by this number I found 2 items, and I don't want to find 2 items. Dash child 1. It is because in this case the menu is not, or that welcome is not actually a link within welcome. It is on the actual link itself. So menu and child. Let's just copy this. I found it as welcome, but the text was welcome logout. Not quite what we were expecting it to be. Oh, it found 2 items still, that's why. Right, menu has 2 children. Make sure I put the attribute in the right spot. Pretty darn sure I did, but if I put it on, there's the first child should be this piece. Should have text. So we can say .navlink first. That technically should make our test pass. Add dot. Or say include, because it does have other text in there. But, okay, we got our menu being test here. We've got, go to top, we've got our number of items. Testing our order. Here we can just say this. It's the nth child selector. Eq. Let's try that in here. Colon EQ1. I like that better. The nth child felt wrong. EQ1. And we'll leave it at first. And EQ3. And EQ4. And EQ1. Do that same for all of these here. Navlink EQ3. And I apologize for our squeaky chair. I need to actually fix this chair. So that data-cy equals left menu. EQ4. Bracket data-cy equals left menu. Do EQ4. Really 4? Let's make sure. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's what I thought. Get menu login. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Sign up is 3. Data-cy equals left menu. EQ 2, 0, 1. Data-cy equals left menu. Navlink EQ1. Data-cy equals left menu. EQ0. EQ0. Bracket data-cy equals left menu. There goes nothing. All right, let's look at login order. Login order. This is 0 based. Doesn't help. Since this isn't part of CSS, we don't get the item that we want. Or don't get the performance boost, I should say. So performance, let's make sure these pass first. Get them all passing. Then we'll come back and refactor. So what failed was all items router link. That may have been the symbols, I just forgot a space. Okay, so now let's do the performance stuff that we had talked about. But EQ 0. One more and then we'll run this test just to make sure. Actually, that's the last one. Let's actually run this test just to make sure it works. Then we'll update the rest. Okay, that fixed all of those. So let's go through and fix all the rest of these. And we're getting rid of the first just so that we're consistent. I'll just keep doing this refactor here. If you have any questions at all as we're going through this, drop them into the chat. And if you're just lurking, enjoy the lurking. We are just refactoring a bit of our test here. Test ran so quick I actually missed them running. Let's take our dot only off here. Head back and run all of our tests. The room I'm in has a giant window next to it. A bunch of people in the co-working space passed by and said hello. Hence the wave. Okay, so now it looks way better. Now we're a little bit more succinct. So say get our left menu, get our nav links, and then down here we tell it get the item numbers. It's 0 base. So the first one, the second one, third one. We could have put data-cy attributes on each of our menu items, but we wanted to test the order of them as well. We want to make sure that because it's a menu, it shows up as we expect it and in the order we expect it. So we do that for all of of these, but our selector is way simpler, way less brittle. Now we're looking for left menu. We're still looking for a nav link in there, but with the CSS framework we're using, nav link is the one to use to make the links show up the way that they're showing up. Let's take a gander through our account one, see if there's any of these crazy selectors that we want to get rid of. So here we can refactor for this one actually. Let's see, we're on the sign up page, or actually we're on the home page. So this just says should have text, welcome, and gives a username. How is it getting the one that we need? Nav item, nav link should have text. Well, data-cy equals right menu. We'll say nav link, say .eq0. Data-cy equals right menu. Get the nav link and .eq1. Throw these down on separate lines just for formatting. Put a quick dot only on there. Run this the one test, make sure it's still passing. And it did not. So data-cy equals right menu dot nav dash link on EQ0. Okay, so it should have found that. Make sure we put in the right spacing here. Data-cy right menu. Try that again. There we go. Take our dot only off this. All the rest of those look good. We've already done the menu one. Just look in here and just make sure we don't have any crazy selectors that we can simplify. Get our first to-do item. This is looking pretty darn good. I think we are going to commit this. Actually, this is update. Selectors to be more specific for menu. Let's just double check all the stuff happening. It looks like we might have a dot only in the account. It wants to say dot only for it. Try this again. There we go. Now we got rid of the dot only. We added left menu, we added right menu. I think we're going to call that one good. Sweet, we're making some good progress here actually. Some Last piece I want to look at for right now is let's go ahead and hit our login page. And we should expect to see must be an email address. Email is required. And all we have for passwords that is required. Let's add in these validations. It should be as easy as going down here to our required validation. Because we've already written them, don't need to write them again. Let's take a look at our test cases here. Let's see how our describes are set up. So count test. So log in, sign up. Let's do a describe. Login form validation. Try this one more time. There we go. Describe, sign up form validation. Okay. Put our before in here. cy.visit / login, so that we get on the login page. And we will say email. And that's going to be our email min length validation. Let's actually close others. Now let's go look at our login page. Grab our data-cy. And here's email. And let's figure out which one we want to put into here. Let's try it on here. Data-cy equals email validation. This is email. Actually, it is, get our text right. It's not min length, it is, is an email validation. Actually, validate is email. Email is required. Ep3@foo.com. Let's type in 1. On as well, our login button should be disabled. Actually, we're not going to put that test in here. We're going to make a separate test for that one, because unlike our to-do item page where we only had one field, we have multiple fields, and I don't want to clutter this one up with testing both login and password. So this one is password. One clear it, and we will say right here data-cy equals password validation. Copy that in there. Password is required. Running this test. Password, I'm going to clear it. Actually, we clear it. What we should see is this becomes not visible. So actually should be displayed. We're going to type in 1. Get rid of that. And we will say that should not be displayed. So this one, type in 1, should come up as email is required. Actually, must be an email. Let's get the text right here. Should contain, must be an email. So we're going to add in one more test here. Do this one. Type something, clear it out. Email validation should say it's required. Type in just one character. Do that. If we type in a whole email address, should not be valid or should not be visible. Let's make sure it actually showed up in here. It did, and it failed validation. cy-login is not a function. That would be because it is cy-visit. Let's try that again. Silly me. I'm going to put a dot only on this. I don't want to watch it run all the rest. And we're going to refactor this a little bit too. So, I see a bug right here. We had the wrong field. Copy paste error. Okay, email passed. That one did not pass, but let's take a look here. Expected div alert danger to contain. I think that was the actual issues. We had a period in our message, but there actually is not a period in there. Expected it to be disabled. We don't want it to be disabled. We want it to be not visible. Let's actually put in that should be visible. This way we can make sure that it's not just the text, but it truly is visible. To be disabled. Not be visible, be visible. Ah. Get rid of that line in there. So we already combined it together. There we go. Now we got our validation firing the way that we expect it to fire. or validated that it's expecting it. And I don't know that I would do anything else in here. My thought was, do we actually simplify by this piece? But really, they all kind of go together. If I type in one thing and clear it, I should get this validation. If I type in things, if I separate them out, then I'm just gonna have to clear the fields every time. Actually, I can simplify this a little, because we should be able to do this piece. Let's say let's do this. Email, type 1, result, and then type an email. So we're already typing 1 in here, so we can get this one in here. We'll say email is required. Type in a character, display mail must be an email, clear out our character. We get the email required and then type something in. Well, we can do the same thing down here actually. So type one character, get it, not be visible. Then we say dot clear. So now we type, which we don't need to because we already have something typed. So we say clear, and we should get the password required error. Now to figure out how do we test this login button. Because we're going to repeat all of these same items here. But I can actually test our login button and say dot should. Actually, we'll do a dot get data.scy equals login button dot should be dot disabled. We haven't passed our password validation yet. Should be dot enabled, not dot v dot disabled. Oh, we're gonna give that a try. Line 111. At least I was consistent and I copied it. Unexpected token on 111. Let's kick off our test again. Same thing still, line 111. Ah. There we go. Sure, it disappeared off those ones. See, should not be visible. Should not be disabled because I just passed validation. And here should be disabled. Now everything should be passing. E was not found. Ah. One too many things to... One too many letters deleted. Perfect. Login form validation is done. Let's check that in. Add login form validation Cypress test. So let's now do the same thing with our sign up page. Let's see what's taking all my resources again. Let's close down some items here. VS Code's taken like 3 gigs of memory on me. I'm gonna close and reopen that so we can get it down. So close this one out. A little better. Let's open these back up. Your testing code. And we also need the store track code, which this is our sales API that this demo just happens to use. And sales lift to start the API back up. Start our ng serve up here in a moment. So ng serve. Create a new terminal here. And we'll do Cypress open as soon as it comes up. So npx Cypress open. I just wait for everything to restart back up. If you have any questions on what we're doing, or Cypress test, or Angular, or anything else, feel free to throw it into the chat. Looks like Cypress is starting back up, but still got to wait for our Angular server to start up. And if you're enjoying the stream, make sure to click on the follow button at the top of the channel so you can be notified when I do go live. It is Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but occasionally I might do some pop-up ones during the week to work on stuff. To be notified each time, click on that follow button. Yeah, our server's up. Actually check on our sales one. Everything should be back up. Let's run all of our test, which should just run the validation ones because we have a dot only in there. Perfect. Back up and running there. Let's do the same thing on our sign up page. So we need to throw into here our elements of data-cy goes email validation. We'll do the same thing down here for the password. CY equals password validation. And let's bring our account page back up. We're going to copy these 3 tests. We're going to essentially do the same things. Our login and account, our login and sign up pages are very, very similar. So we're going to run and see if that actually works, but I do need to take off the dot only. Let's put one here. Let's take off this one. Sign up form validation. Close but no cigar. Okay, let's take a look at. Should have actually found the timeout. So couldn't find the element. That would make total sense because it's not called login button. It's called sign up button. Sure, in the sign up one. Making some good progress here. Now everything should pass. We validated email validation. Not be visible. We typed 1. Must be 6 characters. So we have an extra validation. Interesting that we don't have a min length on our login form. So let's look at our password validation. Let's give ourselves a little more space here. So Control J hides our terminal we had open, and Control B as in boy hides the side panel. If I want to bring them back up, I just hit Control B and Control J. Okay. Wow, what a horrible test name. We're going to fix that. So we are going to say, let's call it email validation. I'm going to call it password validation. Email validation. That's really what it is. Password validation. Okay. We want that should that contain and I know this test is going to fail because it has a period on the end of it. Let's take that off so that we're consistent. Make sure we're consistent here too. And we are. It should be visible, should be disabled. And we're going to do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it should not be visible and not be disabled. Because we have now passed all of our validation. There we go. Passed all the validation. Let's look in here at pulling in our minimum length. So we log in. We got a password required. Let's pull in the min length. Let's also set our min length here. Luckily enough, this is easy to set. Min length of 6. And we should see, as soon as we get rid of this dot only, okay, count test. Okay, dot only here. And I'm expecting our password validation for the login form is going to fail now. Which is exactly what we wanted to have happen here. Because now we have a, as you'll see, if we can get it highlighted, it should, well, one, it shouldn't have been visible. But now that we added in min length, we want to go through here and we need to actually test that. We should be able to actually just pop in all of this code back up here and call it login button. And now we should be back in a passing state. And we got some consistency. We obviously missed some consistency there that we required 6 characters for a sign up, but you could attempt on login to only put in 1, even though it wouldn't have been invalid. Okay, do a little check in here. Pull up our account. And we want to get rid of our dot only before we check this in. Let's be good citizens and make sure that all of our tests are passing now that we don't have a dot only in there. It's always good when you have a dot only to take it off. Make sure everything runs before you check in your code. It is taking its sweet time. Oh, machine's running a little slow today. But so far so good. They should all be passing. I'm not expecting any hiccups here. even with this little bit of slowness, be about a minute and a half for all of these tests, maybe a tad bit longer. I still couldn't have run all these tests manually in a minute and a half to 2 minutes. So we're at 99 seconds to run these. We ran 30 tests. No way I could have run through all of those. Even if I did, I would have been rushing like crazy to do it. Instead, I got to sit back and just to enjoy it. So let's get some stuff checked in here. Just want to stage that one. Stage that one. Actually, we'll stage all of these. I was hopeful it did all of them. One of the reasons I'm doing it this way is because there's stuff at the bottom I want to commit differently. I like to do a little more of the autonomous commits. I should have committed all of our sign up stuff before we did the minimum length for the login, but we did not. Waiting for this UI to magically update because my machine is going a little slow. Alright. Enough of trying to stage everything independently. We can unstage that file though. All right, I say add sign up, validation test, and min length password to login. If it wasn't a demo app, it was production, maybe I would have cared a tad bit more about that commit message, but ultimately it's going up to a demo application. So let's take a gander. All right, we did our login validation here. Let's actually log ourselves back in. So we're testing these pieces. We're testing validation here, our add button, our menu items, all the validation here, our navigation in between. We aren't checking what happens when you leave a field. I wonder how you actually do that. Cypress input blur. So looks like we get the item, we type something, and we blur it. So if I just find it and I say, let's try this, because that's one thing we haven't actually tested. So we're going to login validation. If we do there's a dot focus dot blur. Actually, we're going to put it at the top. Dot focus. Dot blur. We'll do the same thing for our sign up. Focus. Dot blur. Focus. Dot blur. Before we save this, let's put it down only on this. I don't want to spend the time running all the rest of the test. So now this should click on the box and click off the box, and we should get the same effect going. We obviously have it down only in more than one spot. That's because we didn't put it high enough. I want to describe nested with a describe, nested with a describe. It seems like we're getting a little out of control there. So how about we do this? Say describe. Form validation. Validation. Now we can run just form validation. Interesting, we have a to-do up here. Wasn't quite expecting that to run. We'll go double check we don't have an only in there. And we don't, so I have no clue why it picked that one to run. But good news is, form validation is running. We'll take a click on it here in a moment, as soon as that required is done. Truly make sure it, so we focused, we blurred, and it came up. Perfect. So add focus blur validation test for login and sign up. We can actually go do the same thing for our to-do item here. So it would be in our required. Actually, we can do it in both, come to think of it. And let's refactor this a little bit and reorder it. And we're going to combine these. I know last stream I just chose not to combine them, but kind of feeling a little bit like these kind of go together. Okay, so now we're going to do, say focus, dot blur, should be good there. Now if I say dot blur, Actually, we're going to say dot clear dot type. Actually, we need to do this because we got to get our item first. So we get our to input again, do a focus and a blur, and we should get a minimum 3 characters. Since I know there's a only on the other one, this test probably won't run. Min length ran. See about required. Timed out. Expected to find element, but never found it. There's 4 items in there. So min length. Let's look at required. So we did a focus and a blur. Typed a 1, we cleared it, and we typed 1, 2, 3. Focus, get, blur, 1, 2, 3. Where did 1, 1, 2, 3 come from? Should we run this? It is leftover from our min length validation. So we want to take required validation. I'll do a dot clear. Don't need a focus because it's already focused. Let's see what happens now. There we go. Let's just double check we cleared it. Let's see what actually really happens. Go all items. I think we specifically chose not to do that, but let's double check, make sure that's not an actual error that we clicked on the field and then clicked off and it did an error. It may be fully intentional. Let's find our validation routine. Because we don't actually have a min length. So I'm not sure that... Well, we do have min length. So why is it not firing that way? And that might be a difference between reactive forms and the non-reactive forms. So here's where we're firing it. Making sure that it actually has an error. And it may not actually have an error at that point. Well, the control's not dirty, so I'm betting. So if we take this out, if that causes a failure. Automatically fired. Interesting. So we tried to be nice, so it's intended, because that dirty flag checks to make sure we actually have typed something in there. So if we find the control, if the control has something that is dirty and is not valid, go find the validation message. So it is intentional. Now we actually have a test we can get rid of. because this test is totally bogus. Because really the focus and the blur is only valuable when it's going to fire on blur. And in our case, it does fire on blur, but the message is already up there. There's no way to simulate it to blur, and it's mainly for the required messages. I reordered this test a little bit as well. Say clear out the data that we had, then add in the stuff. And we don't actually need to clear the data there. We just need to get it above 3 characters. So we're going to clear it. We're going to add 1. And we'll get an item must be at least 3. Actually, we're going to take that test case out. We're just going to make sure if we pass validation, we're good. Let's think about this. Because we're testing both at this point. I don't like that this feels like a min length test. So we don't want to be, in a required validation test, we don't want to also be running our min length test in here. Let's just try that. If you're just joining us, we are going through some Cypress testing validation and just kind of polishing up pieces a bit. And I was expecting there that we actually typed in, and we got rid of the one that was typing 3. So make sure this one passes now. There we go. So now we're testing our min length. We're testing our required validation. So ship that one. And let's discard that one because we don't want to check in the dot only. Not sure why we just had blank lines there, but and we validated we formatted our stuff along the way, and you can see some of the stuff that showed up. So adding, no, this is to do validation test. Not super descriptive, but and format doc or format to do test. Hopefully everyone's day is going good. And if you have any questions on Cypress or Angular, feel free to throw them into the chat. And now I see why that space was added. Or removed, I should say. Remove extra in line breaks. So we are going through some Cypress test here. Let's take out our dot only and let's get all of our tests running again. Actually, let's make sure we don't have a dot only hiding in here before we try to run them all. We have 2 dot onlys. And something tells me we committed those. And we sure did. And that is the one piece where I wish we had a good way to capture that there was a dot only there, some linting rule or something in there, because when you have the dot only, all of your test cases don't run. It only runs that section, which is totally intended when you're just playing with one test case, but at the end when you want to run them all, you obviously don't want a dot only in there. And you don't want to check that in and make your CI server not run all of your tests. And we still have a dot only somewhere because it only ran form validation. Or we just didn't save it. Let's try this again. There we go. And if you're enjoying the stream and want to be notified when I go live, make sure to click the follow button. Plan is every Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this Friday, we're going to look at Angular unit test. So we'll go through all the unit tests that are in this project, and we'll make sure they're all still valid. I haven't ran them since Angular 6, since this is a demo app. I know 7 is out, 8 is on its way. And we'll make sure all of that stuff is still running. And now that we've got some Cypress tests, we'll see if there's certain pieces of the unit test that can actually go away. A lot of times before, we were testing behaviors in our unit test, which we don't have to test behaviors in there because Cypress is doing that for us. Sweet, all of our tests are running. Get rid of the dot only. Actually, let's append that onto the last one there. So at this point, the only thing that I know off the top of my head, actually two things, is our saving one. I know that we're not checking to make sure that the saving validation here and having multiple items in here and making sure they're sorted correctly. And we will look at how to add that multiple test just here in a moment. And I was going to do it Friday, but I'm feeling quite motivated. So let's actually take a look at it right now. Let's collapse up some of our items here. So here's where we add our test in there. Let's do a test sorting. Get rid of this. We are going to need to add one more item in there. Actually, think about this. We could set this thing up with with us actually stubbing out everything. So test sorting some. Let's look at, we only have one fixture in there, so just post. Let's actually look at our network traffic here. Refresh this page. Okay, so slash to do. CY-route. Actually, it's URL. Slash to do. Say.get. Status 200. Response. It's going to be say an add response, and add response. And I'll take and do that. And we will say add response dot text test2, and we will wait for that to load. Let's just see what it does. Actually, we're going to throw our dot only on there for now. Unexpected token on line number 152. Forgot the comma. $156. Doesn't it like unexpected token? I didn't like that. So we will copy that response. Actually, and we want it to be item. So let's see if that works. There we go. Silly me. Okay, timeout. Waiting for add to do. That's because we did not alias this first off. So, dot as get to do. Try that. So where is it calling? It should have called somewhere up here. The get to do. Did way up here. Ah, I think I know what's going on. That it is running through our before each and getting our items here. We also need to set. So, we need to set this up here. Let's move some stuff around. Actually set our server up here because we're not totally mocking everything. CY-route URL slash. Let's try this again. URL colon slash to do. And we're going to stub out the get method. And our response is going to be an array, and we're going to add the response in there. We're going to call this dot as get to do. Call it initial get to do. We will say cy dash wait at initial to do. CY-reload. All right, refreshes our page. We'll see if that works, though. I'm not sure the refresh will totally work. Oh, it did. We added our 2 items, but let's make sure they're in the right order. We should have had 2 items. Interesting that it added in a second one here. I wonder if the reload did that. Each expected to be up there. Not expecting you to add 2 items in there. I think that's just a failure of the test somewhere along the line. Some initial to-dos. Get. Click on the add. Only running test sorting, so that's all only before each. Okay. The initial to-do is actually blank. We'll say add get to do. Actually, we don't need that one in there. The way this works, we don't need to toss that one in there. Let's try this now. Hopefully now we should only see 1 item. Yep, only saw 1 item. Perfect, our test passes. Not quite what we totally wanted to do, but let's just double check here. So cy-get data-cy equals to do items. Let's validate that we have 2. That should have dot length 2. And that passed. So now what we can do is say cy. Actually, let's look at the first one. So we validated the first text. And we say first, we're going to say icon, and we are going to say dot click. We're going to validate we're going to say dot eq, say 1 should be that, and dot 0 should be, now we'll leave it hard coded. There we go. see if that one works. There you go. So basically it validated that our last row, because we only had 2, was there, and then our items are here. The other thing we can do is also look at this piece, and we should see that should contain text. So let's look at should be visible and not be visible for the square. EQ 1 .eq 1 .should these don't need ands, these should be shoulds. That up top too. So get and should. And when we'd want to do multiple things. Alright, so equal 1. Make sure the right items showed up. Just waiting for this thing to crank through this. Okay, ZZZ. Interesting. Would have expected EQ0 to be the one we wanted. Let's just take a quick gander. It's not rebinding them when they move. Interesting. Let's try. Actually, here. EQ0. EQ0. Actually, we can do first in this one. So first, and this one would actually be EQ1. EQ1. Just put it in the right spot. Okay. So we did get them. EQ1. EQ0. Actually 1. See if that makes this test pass. Come on, no whammies, no whammies. Reloaded our test. Something, checked our text. It is going to fail on our buttons. It's just taking too long. Actually, let's just see. That is, if we type it in here, what happens? Let's do a check square. Check square. Got it, got it. So we don't actually need these. Let's see what to-do items brings us. Okay. So we'll say first, get the square to be visible, .eq1, expect check that square to be visible. So let's just do this. Let's say .eq0. Do dot and dot get. Let's see if that works. That'd be a no. 192. First to-do item, so we don't need that. So first item, we greatly simplify these. We'll get there. Okay, so click here, so get the first to-do item, check the text, make sure it's right. We want to get the second one and check to make sure that the second one, truly the second one. First one, make sure it is, let's see, square be visible, and check square be visible on the second one. Dot first. There we go. Let's see. Unrecognized expression, EQ1. That, yes. So it should be colon EQ1. There we go. Validated our order and everything is correct. The other thing that we can do here is we're going to say dot click. And we will validate our text is in the right spot. By clicking it again, it should toggle the to-do item to not be completed. So now we know we have 2 items, not 3. Sweet, so now we've got our check to make sure that we have our multiple items that are created in here. So let's get this checked in. Actually, before we check it in, I want to look at which class it's supposed to have when it is completed and make sure it truly has it. Take a look here. So row to do. I know there is a strike through for it. Just have to find it. There we go. So let's find our text and dot and Cypress has class. Have.class. Should have just tried it out. Maybe done-true. Actually, no, this one would be done-false. This one would be dot and have.class. Done-true. Actually, we're going to add it up here as well. See here, check, check. Where do we click it? There we go. So we're going to have to look it up. See why to-do items. First, to-do text. Pretty sure that's what it's called. Yep. To-do dash text. Yes, to-do dash text. Don't need all of that. have class done dash true. Toggle uncompleted. There we go. Look at these tests. Sweet. Open pass. Let's take our off our dot only. Just let the rest, all these tests run now. I wish all of our tests ran as fast as the menu ones. So far, so good. Oh, no whammies. There we go. So let's get this all checked in here. Add complete sorting validation. And add complete sorting and class. CSS class validation. Okay, I think we are good to go for today. We added in a slew of tests. We just finished adding in having multiple to-do items and making sure all the sorting is working. We added in login and sign up validation for all of the form elements. We enhanced the one on the to-do items. We added in ones checking for focus and blur validation. We added our data-CY attribute to all of our stuff, so we don't have to do the crazy using CSS or jQuery validators of trying to find nth child in here and hoping we don't change any classes. So our tests are much more stable now. We're up to over 30 tests, and this is feeling pretty stable. It's feeling pretty good to me that I could go make changes to the UI, and then I'm going to know, did I actually break anything? And so starting on Friday, we're going to look at Angular unit test for the same exact project and look at the ones that are already in there, make sure they're still valid, and see which ones could we actually remove out. Some of them may make sense to now remove out now that we have Cypress test in there. But until Friday at 9 a.m., have a wonderful day, wonderful rest of your week, and we will chat on Friday at 9 a.m.